Hi, my name is Walter Scott, and I would just like to say a few quick words about something of a debate which has sprung up in certain places online recently about how stammering, and in particular speech therapy, is portrayed, and how it is often portrayed as a sort of golden journey to fluency, as if stammering is something that can be magically cured, and as if it's the responsibility of people who stammer to get themselves cured. And it's not surprising that there is a lot of emotion around this and very strong feeling, because stammering for individuals is something which has a real impact on their lives. So is stammering something that can be cured? And I find it easiest to apply that comment to myself and to my own stammer. And for me, there's probably about 20% of my stammer, let's say, which is sort of low-level hesitation, occasional blocking. It's not stopping me from getting through sentences. I can do my job. I can speak publicly in front of groups or crowds of people, and I don't have a particularly strong emotional reaction to it. And there's been a lot of MRI scanning programs in the last 20 or so years which have concurred that there are basically just very slight weaknesses in the white matter pathways that connect up the infrastructure for speech and language. That on its own isn't the problem. The problem is the remaining 80%. And that, for me, feels much more like a sort of emotionally driven struggle and a bit panic-driven fear and anxiety. As I understand it, the right-hand side of the brain suddenly kicks in and tries to take control of speech production. And that's when the really hard blocking and the paralysis in speech production kicks in. And that is a problem. And that, I think, is where modern day speech therapy on the whole, including the Maguire program, seems to be trying to focus most of its effort, dismantling this behavior of trying to avoid blocking at all and trying to present a completely fluent front, which doesn't work. That 80%, therefore, I would see that as a correctable habit. And if you can start to dismantle that, then you are getting rid of a lot of the problem. That 80% really, for me, sort of builds up from early childhood, often at the age of about 3, as children are learning how to speak. And its severity is based an awful lot on the reactions of family and friends and what happens in school. And then as that young person progresses through life, through school, into the search for work and for careers. And at that stage, you often come up against corporate standards that you've got to compete against, often in quite a generic way after you've just left school. And that, for me, was when there was a real struggle and panic, because I realised I was competing against people with completely fluent speech, against what I perceive to be corporate standards for fluency. So there's a moral argument there, and you can take it outside of the brain of somebody who stammers and beyond it being their responsibility to sort it out, and ask, what can big institutions, what can big employers learn from that, and what can they do? And have they got a role to play in tackling that 80% and in persuading people who stammer that it doesn't matter and that 20% is perfectly acceptable? That's really what we were trying to do with the Defence Stammering Network, is to begin to plant this idea in certain places within a large employer that it is okay to stammer. I suspect there are probably other big UK institutions and employers out there where stammering at a low level isn't acceptable. Anyway, once again, it would be very interesting to get your views. Goodbye.